Hallo Leute, ich bin Katja und ihr seht Deutsch für euch. Once again, I get to say I'm back! And it's about time that you learned what this meant in German because let's face it, I'm probably gonna have to use it once or twice in the future. Hallo Leute, ich bin zurück! Finally done with my paper so that now I can back to the joys in life. And to get back into it, today we're gonna take on a little grammar snack that I hinted at in the past, which is Perfekt expert mode, as I called it back then. Which of course totally is the linguistic term for it, by the way. No, it's not! Obviously, to get what's going on today, you're gonna have to know how the perfect works, and if you don't know already, I suggest you pause this video now and first go to episode 69 and watch that and then come back here. So, the ominous perfect expert mode is actually just the perfect with an additional modal verb added in. So that's können, sollen, wollen, dürfen, mögen, möchten. I think that should be all if I forgot any mea culpa. But you did mention modal verbs in the perfect episode. What I did say about them back then was that they form their perfect using haben, which is still true, so you won't have to worry about that. Before I get into any explanations, let's take a look at a sentence using perfect expert mode. Hauptsatz: Ich habe das sagen können. Nebensatz: Er weiß, dass ich das habe sagen können. Wait, where's our ge? That's exactly it. Our ge prefix got lost in the way into the special form. So what happened here? Well, let's see. We still have the present tense form of haben in our left verb position in the Hauptsatz. So we get Ich habe das gekonnt, and then we get the sentence I just mentioned, Ich habe das sagen können. So just as a reminder, in a Nebensatz, which always has a cluster of verbs at the end, you always get your conjugated verb at the very end of the cluster. So if we had können as our meaning verb here instead of our modal Hilfsverb, we would get weiß, dass ich das gekonnt habe. So habe at the end. But in our expert form, we get habe at the beginning of the cluster. So weiß, dass ich das habe sagen können. The second change that I just already mentioned is that the modal verb, können in this case, is no longer the meaning verb, but becomes another Hilfsverb, so like haben. Because our meaning verb now is sagen. These two, so meaning and modal verb, they always go together regardless of whether they're in a Nebensatz or a Hauptsatz or anything else, they always stay together in the same order. So meaning modal, meaning modal. The important thing to remember here is that even though we're looking at a perfect form, we never have a ge anywhere. The modal Hilfsverb and the meaning verb, so in our cases können and sagen, always stay in their infinitive. The only change we have is in our main Hilfsverb haben, which gets conjugated according to its present tense forms. Here's a few more examples. Ich habe gehen wollen. I wanted to go. Ich habe gehen wollen. Sie hat sehen können. She was able to see. Sie hat sehen können. Das hast du machen müssen. You had to do that. Das hast du machen müssen. Habt ihr fahren können? Were you able to drive? Habt ihr fahren können? Du hast etwas sagen wollen. You wanted to say something. Du hast etwas sagen wollen. Now these sound kind of peculiar to German ears because they are. You will rarely, if ever, hear perfect expert mode being used. It's just a lot easier and therefore has become the norm to use the Präteritum if you're using modal Hilfsverben, even if you're in spoken German, and even if that means that you normally only use the perfect. So to pick up the last example I had and the ones I just listed, I would, in pretty much any scenario I can imagine right now, I would say du wolltest etwas sagen and not du hast etwas sagen wollen. However, the reason why I'm bringing this up, besides some structural curiosity I imagine some of you might have, is that you will encounter the conjunctive and the passive. And these two actually use this stringing of verbs pretty frequently. So, because of that, for now, let's do a short recap. If in the perfect, we don't only use a meaning verb, but also an additional modal Hilfsverb, a few things happen. Firstly, we can rely on being able to use haben, never sein. Secondly, we lose the ge prefix. The meaning verb always goes before the modal verb, regardless of whether we're talking about a Hauptsatz or a Nebensatz. In Hauptsätze, everything else is the way we're used to, meaning that we have haben in our left verb position and our meaning verb and modal verb in the right verb position in the said order. So, sagen, können, meaning modal. And lastly, the unusual thing in Nebensätze, unlike normally the conjugated verb, so haben, stands at the beginning of the cluster, not at the end like normal. And that's it for today. If you want to get a copy of the script for today's episode, support me on Patreon, which is always linked in the description, and toss me a note on there with an email address that you use for DropBox. Your random word of the week is der Engel. Bis nächste Woche. Tschüss! By the by, guys, I'll be on a holiday for 2 weeks, starting next Monday, so I'll do my best to pre-record episodes for those 2 weeks, but regardless of whether I make it or not, I probably won't be replying to a lot of comments in that time, so just a heads up.